So I think it's loading some few seconds. Great, welcome everybody. My name is Bastien Walpa and I will be your host tonight. This event is co-organized by two main French clusters. On the energy side, we have Tenerrdis cluster, and on the digital side, we have Minalogic. The objective of this Smart Energy six-pack series on smart grids are multiple. On one side, we want to provide you with our online advanced training. On another side, we would like to create business-to-business opportunities, but also we want to create synergy between the energy world and the digital world. I will like to go through some basic rules for this training. First, all your mics are off. You can ask all your questions on the chat. My colleague Ingrid will be at your disposal to answer any question. Also, my colleague Natalie. And we will be also collecting all your concerns, all your observations, all your questions, and we will dedicate at the end of each panelist, at the end of each presentation, some minutes to answer to Jews. This session will be recorded, so if you have any objection, please let us know. We will start with the today program on smart grids. We will be together for 2 hours and a half. We'll have five presentations of leading experts on the topic of smart grids for optimized storage. At 11:15, we will have a break. This will be the opportunity for you to check on your agenda. As you know, at the end of the presentation, we will have a dedicated time for matchmaking. We have a specific platform for that. On the next slide, you will have the link if you haven't received it. So you still have time to create your account and to request and receive demands from partners. There will be 15 minutes meetings, and this will provide you a framework to exchange with the different participants and also with the panelists. They will start at 12 and it will end at 1 p.m. So I would like to go pretty briefly, and I know that some of you have already this information, but pretty briefly on the Smart Energy projects. The Smart Energy projects is formed by 6 partners from Belgium, Italy, Hungary, and France, and we have 3 main objectives. The first objective is to provide you with innovative services to support your industrialization or market access. The second objective is to enhance and support the integration between energy and digital technology. And the third objective, which is the reason why we're here today, is to promote the meetings between our regions and to create synergies between the 2 sectors, energy and digital. As I was saying, we are here today in the framework of what is called the Cluster Exchange Program to promote the exchange between stakeholders on energy and digital. What is our ambition? We have 3 main ambitions. On the first one, we want to provide you with state-of-the-art energy technologies. We also want you to discover our expertise, our regional competencies, and we want to support the link and the matchmaking between your regions and ours. For your information, the 6-month program have been working on 3 topics: hydrogen, energy communities, and as today, smart grids. The hydrogen technology topic has been already closed. It was closed yesterday, and the energy communities will be closed this week or the next. In any case, all the presentation and all the recording will be available in our website. So if you are interested about hydrogen and energy communities, you can either contact Tenerrdis or Minalogic, and we will help you with the different links and the different access to the recording and the presentations. As you know, this is a program of 6 weeks. We're already on the 4th. This program of today, as I was saying, will be on smart grids for optimized storage. And the next one will be the 1st of April, and we'll finish the 8th of April with a big matchmaking event with pitch sessions. We will have around 20 companies and organizations pitching for 5 minutes in their respective projects and innovative technologies. So you are more than welcome to participate also to the last event on the 8th of April. Very important, as I was saying, we have a specific platform for you to create your profile and to have meetings. On that sense, you have the link just in front of you. You should have received an email from Renaud Descamps. In any case, I believe that my colleague Natalie will help me out writing down, posting the link in the chat. So if you haven't created your profile yet, just click on the link. It's pretty easy to do. You just have to create a profile. You have like 4 questions, and then you can scroll down and browse for potential partners you want to discuss with. So you still have time to do it, please. Now, with no further introduction, I would like to give the mic to Frank Al-Shakarchi from the CEA unissent in Grenoble, France, on the introduction to make markets and application. Frank, are you with us?
Yes, I opened the camera and my mic. Do you hear me? Do you see me?
Perfectly on my side. Thank you very much. So do you manage to also change the different slides? Great. So okay. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very honored to participate to the webinar. I will start by saying that now my name is misspelled. Okay, so you will see my right spelling of the name. It's without the first C. So I just would like to start by that. But then, so my topic is about introduction to markets and application for energy storage. I also believe that maybe smart grids for optimized storage, the title should be inverted. It's optimized storage or storage for optimized smart grids. I'm working at CEA. CEA is a French public research institute. I'm part of the solar technology department, and I will start with a brief introduction on CEA. And so CEA, it's about 20,000 employees, and it has 4 divisions, and I belong to the technological research division. And within this division, we have, it's taking some time on my side, yes, we have 4 institutes. I'm part of CEA Lithium. Lithium, it's based in Grenoble and in Chambéry. CEA Lithium deals with all aspects related to energy transition. We are more than 1,000 experts. We have a lot of patents. We have a lot of platforms. And as you can see in this slide, which is coming, yeah, we have a lot of platforms, and we have especially platforms on battery, fuel cells, electrical mobility, smart grids. And this is from this point of view that I will be doing the presentation, but we're also working on thermal storage and thermal and gas storage. Okay. And as I was telling you, we have 2 campuses, one in Chambéry, it's at the Solar Energy National Institute, which I belong to. My employer CEA, the campus I'm working on is unissent, and another one in Grenoble. So that's about the introduction. And I will be talking about markets for storage and applications. So I put some references, some nice documents you can go and look at. I use some of them for my presentation. And I will start by reminding everybody, but I guess everybody knows about that, what we are talking when we're talking about grid-related storage. So we are talking on the first hand about ancillary services. So that would be frequency regulation, for instance, and power reserve, energy reserve. We're talking about peaking capacity, and for instance, being able to provide power at peak load in wintertime. We're talking about energy shifting in order to optimize the energy cost in the market, but also to to store the surplus of generation from wind power and PV and report it at other times. And we are also talking about transmission and distribution, how to optimize the network, how to optimize the infrastructure. So I guess everybody knows about that. And what doesn't really appear behind that is everything related to PV self-consumption at industrial, commercial, and residential level. But we'll see, we'll talk about that later. So first of all, we need to think that we need to remind ourselves that grid is one application about among one market among many of them. And if we look at transportation, that's the top hand, right hand figure. Transportation represents 90% of total market. And if we look at the storage, stationary storage, well, and this is the bottom left, the stationary storage, only grid-related storage represents around 45–50% of all stationary, and the rest being storage for industrial applications. So that means telecom, UPS, for motive industrial products. So let's not forget that grid-related storage is only one part of all the energy storage market and application. And let's not forget that we're not talking about batteries. We're not talking about only about lithium-ion batteries. We're talking about a lot of other technologies, even though today we will focus about batteries. So about grid-related storage. So what DOE is projecting with the help of Bloomberg New Energy Finance, it's about 160 gigawatt-hour per year in 2030. And when we look at the repartition per application, we're talking about energy shifting and peaking about 50%. We're talking about residential and commercial and industrial PV storage. I was telling you about that earlier. A third of the total market. Transmission and distribution 16%. And you can see that ancillary services will represent a very little part of that. And we can understand it because, for instance, in France, we don't need that much. We need maybe 1 gigawatt, 800 megawatt of power for storage, half an hour, 1 hour. But then that's for the frequency regulation, let's say, in France. But then when we'll have a lot of PV, we will need to do a lot of energy shifting, and that's what appears here. So we need to look at the future, project ourselves in a world where there will be a lot of PV, a lot of wind power, a lot of variable production, and this will need to be stored and to be moved to other time, and will require to have a lot of capacity for peaking. When we look at the markets per region, it appears that Europe, USA, and China will represent the same amount, about 20% each. So at the next slide, I will talk a bit about what is telling us, and we can see that there are a lot of numbers, a lot of figures, a lot of people publishing figures, and they're not all aligned. There can be a difference of double, but anyway, what matters is really the trend and the share. So I was telling you about EASE. They just published from March this year, so this month, the European energy market, and for 2020 they estimated that 1.7 gigawatt hour were installed, and it reached a global total capacity, European total capacity of 5.4 gigawatt hours. So I was telling you the values differ from DOE. And at the European level, residential and front of meter represent approximately the same amount, let's say 50%. And when we look at the market per country, Germany is leading the market. As usual, Germany is leading everything. And it's mainly dominated by residential. And we know that they have put in place a lot of mechanism to support that. UK comes second with 20% of the total market, and it's dominated by front of meter. Then when we look at Italy and Iberia includes Spain and Portugal, so it's dominated by residential. And when we look at France and Nordics, it's dominated by front of meter. That means front of meter means ancillary services and so on. And rest of Europe includes Ireland, and which is mainly a front of meter market. The slide is coming. Okay, so just a focus on France. So I was telling you it's mainly front of meter and application. So in France, it's projected to have 150 megawatt hour installed in 2021. We see that there was a reduction between 2019 and 2020, and we can see that in all countries, most of the countries, and this is because of the sanitary situation with the COVID virus. And you can see that 72% of it relates to frequency regulation, mainly lithium-ion and some sodium sulfur. So there are three business cases, three situations for these stationary storage, grid-related storage in France. So recently, RTE, I mean 2019, RTE, which is the TSO, the transmission system operator, announced the winners for the bid about capacity market. So capacity market is for winter time. So what requests RTE is to have the capacity of providing peak power during winter time, a few hours for a few days, but it really matters a lot in order to make sure that we have a good balance between load and production, and to avoid to start peakers only for winter time. So it delivered results for 253 megawatts of new storage capacity. And these will be installed from 2021 to will be operated from 2021 to 2027 and from 2022 and 2028. So you see, this is for balance between energy, between consumption and generation. So that's one business case. Another business case is actually for French islands. So there are a lot of French islands in the Caribbean or close to Mauritius in Africa, and most of the tenders for PV in these islands were PV plus storage, and this allowed to the installation of a lot of PV hybrid PV battery plants. And recently, they also organized a market for storage to provide services for these these grids, the grids of these islands. So storage for arbitrage or for ancillary services. So this is another business case for France with French islands. And there is one, let's say, experimental project, which name is Ringo, and this is the TSO again, RTE, which invested in 36 megawatt capacity in order to optimize the infrastructure. So you see that mainly these all three, it's about providing services to the grid to optimize the PV generation from the grid point of view, and this is not about PV battery self-consumption. The slide is coming. Okay, so a focus about lithium-ion batteries. So in 2030, lithium-ion batteries, it's projected that it will represent a market of 2,000 gigawatt hour per year in total. 85% is for transportation, so it relates to what I was saying before. So stationary is about 170 gigawatt hour, and 50% of it is for grid-related application. So it's about 80 gigawatt hours. And we know that most of the manufacturing capacity is outside of Europe. So that's why we really need to increase the manufacturing capabilities in Europe. I mean, it's an industrial, from an industrial point of view, but also from an environmental point of view, because we know that the power mix in France, in Europe, is better than in other places. And we know also that it will require less transportation. So that's why I'm very happy to see that Verco will be presenting. It's very important to promote all European industrial partners. So 80%, 80 gigawatt hour, it's for grid-related application. And when we look at redox, because this is another interesting battery technology, and we're talking about the same amount. So we are talking about 2030. We're not talking about today. We're talking about 2030. And let's keep in mind that we will be in a world where there will be a lot of PV, a lot of wind power, and the excess of production of this generation will need to be stored. So the more we have, the more energy we need. When we have a little bit of PV and wind, we need mainly to make sure that there is a good equilibrium between on the and good some ancillary services on the from the grid point of view, but we don't really need to store all that energy. We need to make sure that we can balance the intermittency. But when we will have a lot of PV and we will have a lot of wind power, we will need to store a lot of energy. That's why redox batteries will be more and more useful, and we can already see that there are a lot some big battery facility for redox. So we're talking about 2030, 150 gigawatt hour of grid-related storage, and more or less half lithium-ion and redox. When we look at LCOE, DOE did some calculation, and I just wanted to show these numbers, but I also want to tell you that we need to be careful. So that's why I'm showing them. It's because we need to consider the impact of lifetime when we're looking at LCOE. So this is LCOE. That means it's the price of providing power, including the electricity input, and the electricity input. It's the cost of it is considered to be 30 euro per megawatt hour. So you can see that the hypotheses are quite pessimistic. I find myself when it comes to the lifetime of LFP and NMC lithium-ion batteries. And here it appears that, for instance, for 2030, the prices are, let's say, quite high for LFP and NMC, and the redox is not that bad. And I believe that maybe it will be this cost will be much better than that, because today we can already see some PV plus storage, for instance, plants selling at 50, 60 euro per megawatt hour. So I wanted to show you these figures, but I also want to tell you to be careful about the hypothesis of on lifetime. All this calculation, I mean, most of calculation depends on the hypothesis that are taken as input. I also wanted to show you some figures from Lazar. Everybody knows Lazar, and about the current situation about LCOS. And we see that here, the wholesale PV plus storage, so that's the third line, they are achieving some quite good numbers. And then that's for PV plus storage. And when we're looking at wholesale, it's not that bad, actually. And it will improve when we improve the lifetime, when we will improve the efficiency of the system. And a bit about innovation, because here is also a research institute. So when we so the top right, it's about the number of IPF. IPF means international patent filings about electricity storage, and we're looking at 4 types of technologies: batteries, electrical, mechanical, and thermal. So batteries come first in 2018 with maybe 90% of all patent filing. And on the bottom left, we see what is the repartition of the international patent filing on battery cells between different segments. So lithium-ion also comes first. It's about 50%. Then there are other chemistries, you know, about 10%. And then we look at manufacturing, about engineering, and so on. So batteries comes first, and among batteries, lithium-ion comes first when it comes to innovation. So all this innovation prefigures that there will be more and more improvement on these technologies. And when we look at some emerging technologies, so redox is not really emerging, but let's consider that it's emerging. We can see more and more patents on solid state, which will be a huge difference in the performances of lithium, and it is. I mean, everybody is talking about that, and we'll see when it comes, when it will be a necessary reality, and also about redox. So you see that there are a lot of patent filing about solid state, lithium-ion, and redox. Let's say approximately the same amount. And again, when we look at the repartition over the world of that, I'm very happy to see that, I mean, this is a document from IEA I'm referring to. So these are results, natural results. They are not coming from CA. And I'm very happy to see CA being among the 25 top applicants on battery technology. And we can see on the right hand side that Japan comes first, then it's more or less the same amount between Korea, Europe, China, and US, I believe. So that's it from my side, and I will be very happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Frank. And again, sorry for the misspelling of your name. I apologize.
No problem.
Well, indeed, we have one question from Vincent Debuchère concerning the Ringo project. So there's 3 questions on one. I will start reading it. It asks, again, concerning the Ringo project, the TSO is the owner of the storage? Question mark. Is it allowed? Question mark. Would it be allowed as well for the DSO in the future? Question mark.
So yes, for the first question, acteur is the owner of the storage. It is a very specific mechanism because here we're talking about experimentation, so it will not be allowed in the future. The European Commission is very clear about that. TSOs and DSOs are not allowed to own storage as part of their infrastructure. They are allowed to buy flexibility from flexibility providers. So this is a very special case where acteur is doing some experimentation, but it represents in the framework of the French market today a big amount.
Great.
Vincent is also very knowledgeable in that, and if he thinks I did a mistake, do not hesitate to correct.
Is there any question? I don't see any. So without any delay, again, thank you very much, Frank. Now I would like to introduce, again, sorry if I do some misspelling, Aziz Wabi which is the responsible of innovation in the energy transition direction of the Compagnie Nationale du Rhône, which is the leading producer of exclusively renewable energy. Good morning, Aziz.
Good morning, Bastian. Good morning, everybody.
Great. It's working fine. The sound, the video. Can you change of slides?
Yeah, good. So I will start right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's not easy to take the floor just after Frank, but I will try my best regarding that. I had the pleasure to share with you about CNR, Compagnie Nationale du Rhône, and I am in charge of open innovation inside this energy transition division of CNR, and I will have some words about integration of renewables thanks to the flexibility of a hydropower plant. Next slide, just a few words about CNR. Who is CNR? CNR is the multi-purpose concession holder of the Rhône River in France. So you have a picture on the slide about the Rhône River, which is flowing from the Swiss Alps, and then it flows inside Geneva Lake, and then after the Geneva Lake, it goes in France for about 500 kilometers. And the CNR has been given the concession of the Rhône River by the French government in 1934 with a multi-purpose object, which is first to develop hydropower plants on the Rhône River, and then inland navigation, meaning both ports and industrial areas and inland navigation on the river, and last, the irrigation for the agriculture. So given that that objective, we have designed and developed 19 hydropower plants on the Rhône River. The Rhône River, which in a few words is the most powerful river in France. It has a discharge of about 1,700 cubic meters per second at the mouth, and it flows from several large cities in France, including Lyon city in France. We were given this concession with this balanced activity, meaning an industrial performance with energy revenues, but also some activities in the general interest field, like navigation and irrigation. And we are an energy developer acting in the long run. So we are currently under process for extending our concession up to 2041. So it's under process right now. And we are also a full integrated company in the renewable energies, meaning that we make the whole development, the operation and maintenance, and we also sell energy on the market. And our capital shares is our capital is shared between several shareholders. On one side, NG Group has a bit less than 50% of our shares, and on the other side, the French group Caisse des Dépôts and 180 local authorities, which also have a part of our shares. Small figures about the company, and we are what we call in France an ETI, an intermediate size company with 1,300 people, and we are organized with a head office in Lyon and several regional offices along the Rhône River. Then just a few words about the Rhône River hydropower cascade. The Rhône River hydropower cascade, as you can have a look, is flowing from Geneva Lake to the sea, to the Mediterranean Sea, and we have designed a cascade of 19 hydropower plants, which have one particularity is that they have been designed in a derivation of the old Rhône River, and that we don't have a large storage capacity. So we have a very limited storage capacity, except our upstream dam, Genesia. Genesia has a storage capacity that helps us for optimizing the generation for a few days, but the main other dams have a storage capacity not exceeding a few hours. And given that limited storage capacity, given that catchment area of the Rhône River, we are strongly dependent from weather conditions, so rainfalls mainly, but also snow on the Alps. And we are strongly dependent from the other tributaries of the Rhône River. So the Rhône River has a catchment area of about 100,000 square kilometers, meaning 1/5 of French area, and we benefit from the inputs and the rainfalls and discharge from all the tributaries that flows inside the Rhône at the end. So no strong storage capacity and highly dependent on weather conditions, meaning that we manage variable energies. Then next slide is just to show you how we optimize the generation signal. So we started in the early 2000 with the liberalization of the energy market in Europe and France, and we have designed a full IT software package to optimize what we call the energy waves, energy leakages on the Rhône River. I have just made a few small scheme to show you. You have each dam with a small variation range between 30 to 50 centimeters, and we can optimize the head in each of these run-of-river dams when the water flows inside that, and we can adjust head and discharge on each power plant. And with the IT development we have made, and also with the remote control, our dams are full of remote control from Lyon. We can adjust each dam one after the other, so that we can deliver a smart signal by this synchronization of the operation of each hydropower plant on the cascade. This works well during low flow to normal flow conditions, meaning that we don't have to go above the design capacity of each power plant. What happens when we go beyond this design capacity is that we are in flood mode, and during flood mode we don't have any possibility to optimize the head range of the flow, because the river has its own natural stream flow, and we cannot adjust energy. What we have to figure out is that we can optimize energy during the majority of discharge during the year, thanks to this cascade of hydropower plants. And when we do that adjustment, that smart adjustment plant per plant, and when we operate this cascade, we can manage some big variation of the output on our balance perimeter. So we don't have any good storage capacity on the Rhône River. We are mostly dependent on the weather, but in the meantime, we have designed the Rhône River so that it can be a flexible asset, thanks to, on one side, a very accurate weather forecasting system and optimization system, and on the other side, a strong remote control and a permanent link with the market, with our trading office, which is located also in Lyon. So as you can look on the screen, we have a possibility in a single day to shape a custom-made signal that looks like to the consumption or the prices on the market, so that we can move from peak to peak more than 1 gigawatt one day on a single day between min and max power delivered to the network. So without this strong forecasting and optimization system, we would not be able to do something less than the mean value. And now, thanks to this optimization, we can distort the energy wave and distort the signal, so that we can deliver more energy when it is needed. And it is needed in France at the evening, the beginning of the evening, but and not at night. And I just have shown in this slide the market design and what we call the merit order, in which in France, for example, you start first the run-of-river plants and the nuclear power plants, and then you can ask for other assets, other thermal assets with a marginal cost which is going higher and higher. And at the end of the day, the market price represents the last marginal cost which has been called on the market. And you can have also look for opportunities on the market so that you can modulate your energy and shape this signal so that you can catch the highest prices in the market. So this is what we have been doing for the last 20 years with a strong experience in the day-ahead optimization, also in the intraday market, but mainly in the day-ahead. And this is already helping us on optimizing the hydropower cascade. But what we are looking in the next years in France, I have just shown you some figures about the policy, what we call the French PPE, the planning that the French government has asked all the actors to focus on in the next year. On the first column, you have the current situation on hydro, wind, and solar in France. So mostly 25 gigawatts of hydro, 17 gigawatts of wind, and 10 gigawatts of solar, which have been installed in France. And in the next 8 years, we are asked to increase a very little bit on the hydro, but mostly on the wind and solar. So we will have to triple or quadruple the speed of development in solar and wind in the next years. So this will lead to a massive introduction of intermittent energy, variable energy sources, wind and solar, which are fully dependent on the weather and non-dispatchable, and that those energies will require an increasing need of flexibility sources. And you have, let's say, at least 3 ways to address that issue. On the one side, you can work on the generation mix by having a better balanced portfolio, optimize and forecast in a better way. You can develop storage assets like hydropower pump storage. You can develop the batteries. You can either stationary or stationary. You can develop electric vehicles and so on. And on the last side, you can work on the demand side management by doing some curtailment and also optimizing the consumption of energy on some clients who have flexible consumption. These are the 3 main ways that we can work on if we want to address this challenge. What about CNR? Because I have shown you the French picture. Now on CNR side, what we have done in the last 10 years between 2020 and 2010 is that we have added about 1 gigawatt of portfolio. This has been almost done. We have done about 950 megawatts up to date on this strategy of development of wind and solar, which has been quite important for the company, meaning that we had invested about 80 to 100 million euros every year to make this development possible. But in the next 10 years, our strategy, our plan, which has been validated, is to triple this renewable energy portfolio in the next 10 years, meaning that we have to do 3 times more every year than we have done till to date. And we have several questions and several issues to work on. The first one would be, of course, to look at demand side management, to look on storage assets. But the question I've raised is, how can we take advantage of the Rhône River so that we can integrate facilitate the integration of wind and solar in our portfolio? What we have decided to do also is to manage and to extend the operation of the Rhône River as a smart battery in the real-time to day-ahead time scale in which the Rhône River will not be only a way to deliver a smooth signal alone, but in which it will integrate the generation of the variable energies like wind and solar, which are located in green here in the screen. And the Rhône River will be able to make the smart optimization of this variability of wind and solar, which can be high, but that can be also done and adapted. And to go to this objective, we need to make some continuous development and forecasting and optimization strategy tools. And I will last with this last slide on the current development. We have developed what we call in Siena an apple tree pommier solutions, pommier V1, V2, and then an EMS on which we are also working. For the V1, it is a deterministic approach for which we supply a first guess to the expert in charge of optimizing the generation of the Rhône River, and a tool that help him explore new optimization schemes. This is Pommier V1, which is already under industrial operation since this year, and we are developing the V2 program, which will be Rhône River management under stochastic approach, meaning we have to deal with uncertainties, and we have to integrate stochastic scenarios for three areas. First one, the market prices, then the water availability on the tributaries, hydrolicity, and lastly, the uncertainties that are brought by the new renewable energy sources. And the last program on which we are also working, and I am proud also to be just after Frank, because we are working hand in hand with CEA about the energy management system, in which we will work for the further integration of new grids of assets and define an optimizer. On the one hand, we will have an active model libraries with electric vehicles, batteries, hydrogen, demand-side management, and on the other hand, the market libraries model with a self-consumption model today, with the ancillary services as well, frequency regulation, and also with a market model on the spot market. So this is our plan today, and I thank you again for your attention, and I would be happy to answer some of your questions if you have right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aziz. Right on track and right on time. We have a question from Bard. He's asking, what are the ecological and global warming constraints on CNR plan?
This is one of the biggest issues we have to face as we are working on the large river, the Rhône River, which is, I have already said, the most powerful river in France. And it is also on the Mediterranean Sea, the river that provides the most fresh water to the sea, more than Nile, for example, because we still have water that goes through to the mouth of the river. So we have a river with good hydrolicity today, but our models are planning that in the years 2050, so in the next 30 years, we may face 10 to 40% of water less on the Rhône River. For us, we are not just talking about climate change and blah blah blah. It happens in Bangladesh or I don't know in which country. It also happens in our country. The water constraints that are induced by the climate change is a big issue. And it's not only the mean value which will go down, as I said, between 10 and 40%. It's our scenarios and the models that we have been simulation that we have done, but it's more than that. It's the high variability in the same year, in the same day, in the same season, and this is more a bigger issue to manage, because it means that we will not have the same water flows as we used to have in the last 20, 30, 50 years, and that we will have a big variability of water inputs in the next years, and this is something that we have to focus on. That's why also those development of forecasting and optimization systems are of prime importance, because we need them also to manage the Rhône River the best way, because the Rhône River is not only used for hydropower plants, it is used for navigation, it is used for agriculture, of course, and agriculture tomorrow will need more and more water during summer. It is also used, and I should have started by that, by the environment, and we have to find the best balance between all these water uses of the Rhône River, because water scarcity is not something only adapted to semi-arid or arid countries. It's also well adapted to our latitudes. We have to focus on that.
So you're already having some contingency plan and some ideas on how to tackle this obstacle, right?
Yeah, sure. We have some plans, but what we think at the end of the day is that we will have to manage a better integrated water resources management with all the the stakeholders, sorry, and we have to discuss more than them with them, because, for example, on the agriculture side, the stakeholders will need more and more water during summer at the period where we will be at low flow. So we have to be careful of that kind of nexus between water and energy, and this is something that we are focusing a lot on.
Okay, great. Well, just for your information, here at Minalogic, we're running a project called Digital Challenge on open innovation, willing to tackle challenges from companies like yours. So on parallel, I will be contacting you on this subject. It might be interesting you. Thank you again, Aziz.
Thank you all.
Again,
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. So for our next presentation, next topic will be on the new gigafactory for battery cell productions. So we will welcome Sylvain Penaud. He's co-founder of the company Vercor, the French industrial company set to amplify battery cells in production in Europe. Welcome, Sylvain.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And first of all, thank you to my friend of Tenerrdis and Minalogic to invite Vercor to present you this very interesting and I would say entrepreneurship adventure of Vercor. So I will show you and maybe summarize. So I'm Sylvain Penaud and the co-founder of Vercor, which is a young company. We started 9 months ago, and I'm Chief Strategy and Strategy Officer of Vercor. Maybe in one slide to summarize the what is who are we. So the Vercor is a digital, smart and low carbon battery manufacturing company. So very important to say that we are here to create a gigafactory in Europe, in southern of Europe, in France. And the innovation is focused on the, I would say, the excellence manufacturing, and not on, I would say, at the chemical level. So we had an introduction of the technology, and we are based on lithium-ion technology, and we will launch a gigafactory in southern Europe for the market. I will detail that in the next slide. Which is an initiative with industrial leader in the domain and battery experts. And I will also explain what will be the first step of this Vercor initiative with the what we call the Vercor Innovation Center. Just maybe to start by share with you some context. As you maybe know, this battery markets, the European battery market, grow rapidly and maybe more than we expected when we have started the company in July. We have a clear gap between the demand and the supply. In this figure, we explain that this gap is more than 230 gigawatt hour, but it's maybe more, and maybe you you see last week, and if not, it could be interesting for you to look at that. This initiative of Volkswagen, we have announced during this Power Day last week their intention to create not one but 6 gigafactory in Europe with 40 gigawatt each. So there is a booming of the needs of the battery market for the need of the electrical vehicle for all the car manufacturers in Europe. When you see the actual map, in fact, in Europe, all those gigafactory initiatives cannot meet demand and also are concentrated in Northern Europe. It's quite easy to explain that at the beginning, because in the last year the electrical vehicle was mainly for premium vehicles, so mainly from German manufacturer, I would say. And so for supply chain, I would say logic, there is some gigafactory. What we see on this map, the green dots are the potential project of gigafactory, and the car in blue are the positioning of the factory for vehicle. But when you look that also with the context of the low carbon, you see that. Sorry, the slide will coming. The most projects are not driven by the low carbon ambition, and it's one of the DNA of Verco is to also to build a cell in a country where the energy is decarbonized. So when you saw that, and the evolution of the regulation, we will have some aspect on that, and Europe talk about battery passport, and to have also a low carbon footprint on the cell itself. And so the ambition of Verco, as you know, is as you see on this map, is to fill the gap in the southern of Europe, and to be leader of the low carbon footprint of cell manufacturing. This slide is to summarize what makes Verco unique. So the first, and so people who know me know that for me the main asset of a startup is 3 things: the team, and the team. So we made a big focus on the talent expertise, and today we started the company, as I said, in July with other colleague and co-founder. We were 6, and we are now 30 people with a very impressive expert in the domain of battery, coming from all based in Grenoble, and coming from Japan, from Korea, from US. So what's the first, I would say, asset of Verco, which is this expert team. As I said, we will work on the state-of-the-art of cell technology, and we focus our development on the excellence manufacturing or smart manufacturing efficiency, to reduce the cell cost, to reduce to increase the yield, to reduce the scrap, and also to reduce the CO2 footprint of this technology. Some very quick overview of the team. We have started. We have some very complementary team in the industry domain, in innovation. This company has been started, I would say, with a European flag, I would say, with the Energy organization, and we have in the team the people who are different expertise. Christophe, what is his CTO, has worked on the first gigafactory of Tesla in Renault. Sam, which is our process engineering director, are strong experience in battery manufacturing in a large volume in A123 in US and in Esvort in China. So a very expert team. I share with you some top experts who have joined the company. We are now more than 30 people in this, and when we accumulate, I would say the battery experience of this team is quite impressive. People coming from Panasonic, Kenichi is a cell designer expert. Christopher is a digital expert in the domain, and other experts in the team. The company, as I said, has been started with the founder and the Energy organization, and we have started with the first investor in the company. And why we have this kind of investor, Schneider Electrics and Capgemini, who are the first investor. Those companies have not the intention to be a battery manufacturer, but for them, Verkor will be their lighthouse project to develop their skill in the smart factory, smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0, and of course for Schneider for the electric management also of the factory. The idea group is a French group, mainly a real estate group, which is very important for us for this quite impressive project, because as you know, a gigafactory, 16 gigawatt, as I said, would be the start. To give you some idea and figure of 16 gigawatt is about 300,000 cars, which is two models in a car manufacturer. And it's about 1.2 billion of investments and a huge building to produce such a technology. And we are in the second phase of fundraising for Verkor today, and so we have some key partner we are strong discussion now, which is not confidential yet, but this will be closed by this summer. To give you a brief overview of the innovation, I would say, because as I said, we don't innovate in the chemical, but we will innovate in the manufacturing. So we will. You have in this slide the main step of the fabrication of cell, from the mixing to the formation of the cell. In each step, we will integrate some digital innovation and integrating in what we call the battery intelligent manufacturing system, which is the main first digital innovation, I would say. And the second one, which is very important, and we have some strategic partner on that field, which is also the recycling. And not only the recycling, I would say, at the end of the life of the battery, which is could be interesting, because we could imagine that part of the material would be integrated at the input of the factory in 2030 will come from this recycling of the second life of battery. But we will also what we call the direct recycling, which is the recycling of the scrap in the factory. Because even if you have a very efficient factory, when we create a gigafactory, we have some giga scrap. So it's very, very important to work on that subject in the same time. About the first step I mentioned at the beginning, from now to the first gigafactory of Verkor, because we are more and more convinced that we will have more than one, which will be in 2024. We are building what we call the Verkor Innovation Center. And this tool will be the tool, a small factory, if you want, would be a tool to develop, validate our digital innovation. It will be a tool also for our partner to collaborate together in the same area, to develop those manufacturing innovation, to leading to reduce the cost of the fabrication, which is also a very important aspect for us. It will be also a training center for engineer and blue collar, because as you know, this industry is not a French industry yet in terms of a volume of fabrication. So we will need also to train people, because it will be a a high potential of job and a green job. For information, the first gigafactory, it's about 2,000 job and 10,000 indirect job. So we need to prepare that. And it's a strong, huge investment for this Auvergne Innovation Center. Sorry, and the objective is to have by the end of the next year first cell produced from this tool and first I would say digital innovation validated. Yes, it's the end of my talk, and let's build together this new French industry for this energy transition and electrical vehicle. And I didn't mention this on the slide, but this Vehicle Innovation Center will also allow us to address other markets, like we mentioned at the beginning of the talk, the energy storage solution and for other mobility activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvain. We have one question from Arnaud Marilyn, I guess. Anyway, it's will you include H2 batteries in your gigafactory plan? That's a question.
If I understood the question, it's a battery for hydrogen vehicle, because so it's a good question, because effectively in a hydrogen vehicle there is battery, so you need battery for that. So those battery are not, I would say, the same specification, but we have some demand, and the Vehicle Innovation Center will because the volume is not the same, and for the moment it's a niche market regarding if you compare with the 100% electrical vehicles. But yes, we have some demand, and the team is able to design on the Vehicle Innovation Center for that market.
Okay, great. We have also Aziz Wabi, who's pretty interested in getting your presentation. So again, everything will be available. We will send to you the presentation, but also the recording. So no problem. You also have the booking platform if you want to meet both the panelists and the participants. I'm writing to you the link. You create your profile, and then you can request us. The participants.
Yeah, just a comment. My name is P-A-I and not P-A-Y, so it's du pain et de l'eau. It's more simple.
Again, sorry for
no problem. And don't hesitate to share my email if people want to have more information. And my email is very simple. It's sylvain@vercorp.com.
Great. We will write it down in the chat. I think maybe Ingrid is doing such right now. Again, thank you very much, Sylvain.
Thank you.
I would like now to welcome our next guest, who will talk about. Wait, it is up to me to change the slides. Sorry, it is now. So the next topic will be on solar forecasting solution and storage optimization. And we will welcome Nathalie Desbrosses, who is a business development engineer at Steadison. Steadison is a spin-off of the CEA, specialized in solar production forecasting. Good morning, Nathalie.
Good morning, Bastien. Thank you. Good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Tenerrdis and Minalogic, for the organization of this webinar. I know that it is a hard work, and you are making it very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So yes, I am here today to speak about solar energy forecast and storage optimization. But before I get to that, I'm going to make a brief introduction of Steadison. The company was founded 8 years ago as we just told, as a spin-off from the CEA and unissent, the French Institute of Solar Energy, that already made a presentation this morning. Hi, Frank. Our team is made of experts in solar technologies, meteorology, image processing, data science, etc. Concretely, what we do is that we help our clients to meet the solar variability challenge. Indeed, when a cloud over a plant can induce a drop of the PV production by up to 80% in few minutes. This is a high challenge for our clients, and this strong variability can result in significant costs for them. And we then help them to anticipate this solar variability and reduce the incurred cost of the variability. And at the end, foster the integration of solar energy into the grid. So we work mainly with the 6 categories of clients. We work with the transport system operators, and in particular, those operating on insular systems. We support solar asset managers, and in particular for hybrid plant operators. So then with storage, which is the aim of the presentation today, or with gensets. We work as well with the trading and portfolio managers, and finally with players of the smart grid and the smart cities field. In total, we deliver forecasts to more than 1,400 sites located in more than 25 countries worldwide. Roughly, our portfolio of products and services cover the different observation, simulation, monitoring, and forecasting challenges. And for each of them, we provide both data and consulting services. And among this large portfolio of products and services, we are going to focus today on the forecast. So then to deliver solar energy forecasts, we rely on 3 different sources of data. First of all, the crystal ball. Secondly, the tea leaves. And thirdly, the alignment of the stars. No, it's a joke. We have developed 3 different solar forecasting products, allowing to cover all time horizons. So nothing by using a crystal ball or tea leaves or whatever. So the name of our 3 products is SteadyMet, SteadySat, and SteadyEye. And they allow to provide forecasts for the next minute to the next 15 days. The first one relies on meteorological models. It is updated 4 times per day and has a spatial resolution of 1 to 50 kilometers. The second one is the SteadySat. It relies on satellite imageries. It is updated every 10 or 15 minutes, depending on the location of the plant and the satellite that we use. And the spatial resolution is from 1 to 3 kilometers. And finally, SteadyEye that simulates forecasts by using pictures taken every minute by a sky imager that is located on site of the plant. And with the very fine spatial resolution, as the sky imager is on site, from 10 to 100 meters. So then, based on these three products, as I've just told, we are then able to deliver the forecast for, let's say, all the needs of our clients, depending on the time horizon and the level of accuracy of the forecast that they need. The methodology is almost the same for the three products, and it is in 4 steps. We begin by acquiring the data from a selection of numerical weather prediction models for SteadyMet, or the available image for the 2 other products. So the image from the satellites or the image from the sky imager. Secondly, we model the data and simulate the forecast based on what we call a physical approach, relying on meteorological data and the features of the plant. So at this stage, we have something like a first delivery of forecasts that can be refined if we can access to real production data or irradiance measurements. So then it is what we do in the 3rd step. So in this case, if we can access to this data, we make what we name self-learning, and we are then able to adjust our forecast to the real production, and then increase the accuracy of the forecast. And finally, once all the calculations made, we are then able to deliver the forecast to our clients in a customized format that they define with us. So here are some examples. So what we have at the end, what we deliver. Here are some examples of what we are able to deliver for each of the product. On each chart, so you have 3 charts. On each chart, you can see in blue the real production of a plant, let's say, and in dark orange the forecast, the simulation. So then here for SteadyMet, here for SteadySat, and there are more curves, but it is here for SteadyEye. And with SteadyMet, as you can see on the chart, SteadyMet simulates linear forecast and then provides, let's say today for tomorrow, a trend of the production for the next day. So you can see that it is very linear. Whereas SteadySat captures and then anticipates the variability of the production. So here, for example, SteadySat, I don't know if you see my my mouse. We can see that when there are some drops or rise of the production with SteadyMet, there is still a trend. But with SteadySat, these drop and rises are well simulated. And it is even more the case with the SteadySat that does the same, but with a much better accuracy, based on the fact that it takes the update rate, the update frequency of the pictures taken is of 1 minute compared to the update frequency with the satellite that is every 10 or 15 minutes, depending on the satellite. So once we have said that, when do we use forecast for storage optimization purpose, and what is the value added of the forecast in this case? We can see we can use forecast at the two different stages for a project. So I have some example. So firstly, at the, let's say, at the feasibility stage of the project, before it is implemented, and then in an operational mode. So then at the feasibility stage, we can conduct some studies coupling forecasts with an energy management system, and then calculate the optimal battery system sizing and develop an optimized control strategy. You can see, for example, on this slide, an example of simulation that we have done for the Tahiti Island. And this really allows our clients to have have information about the best size of the storage, and then if the size is well estimated, the optimal size is very well estimated, we can allow our client to limit their cost, and in this case. So that is the first application. And at the operational phase, there is also a large value added of the forecasts. Here, so it is for the same case study. It is for the Tahiti Island with the peak solar installed capacity of 20 megawatts. You can see, so then we have presented on this slide two charts. The first one provides the number of deconnection days without the use of the forecast, so in dark orange, and with the forecast in light orange. And we can see on this chart that the forecast can help to decrease strongly the number of deconnection days. We can see, depending, so the number of deconnection days are showed here for several size of the storage. So then for several storage sizing. And then we can see that whatever the size of the battery, forecast allows to cut the number of deconnection, but at least 2, and even up to 3 for storage with a large capacity. And we can see that it is even larger when we consider the number of hours of deconnection. Here it is cut, so the number of hours are cut by 2.5 with a capacity of storage of 12.5 megawatt hours in this case, and it is almost the same for a 20 megawatt hours capacity. So this is an example of the value added of the forecast. So then in this case, as the plant, the number of deconnection days is lowered with the forecast, the plant can then inject more electricity to the grid. It is what we are going to see on the next slide. So then you can see on this slide the PV injection, and you can see on in red the PV injection without forecast, and in the orange the PV injection with forecast. And we can see then that here again, whatever the size of the battery, forecast can help to increase the PV injections. you can see in blue here on the chart the PV injection that could be induced by, let's imagine, by a perfect forecast. So then it is, let's say, something like the potential, the total potential of the forecast. But of course, the forecasts are not perfect. Huh? We make some. We try to limit the errors, of course, but there are some errors, and then the real impact of the forecast is then can then be is shown by the difference between the yellow and the red curves or bars. Up. That is, so all the simulations were made here with this example, were made with our SteadyMed product, so with our product that provides day-ahead forecasts. But if we use, if we combine SteadyMed and SteadySet, we can even have some better results. It is what I'm going to show in the next slides. So this we are speaking about a solar plant that is with a 5 megawatt peak installed capacity and a 4 megawatt hour storage capacity. This plant is located in Corsica. For this client, we have installed, so as I just told, both our SteadyMed and SteadySet products. And we can see that, yeah, using SteadySet, so we have installed SteadySet because they wanted to be able to optimize the real-time storage. They can do that because they have implemented an energy management system that is able to adjust the strategy in real time. And then in this case, for this client, we estimated that solar forecast allow to divide by 4 the curtailment due to the fact that they are able to adjust the storage strategy. And by adjusting the storage strategy, it implies an increase of their additional turnover by, let's say, around 75,000 euros per year. So that is substantial. Huh? So then really, in this case, we really see the value added of the forecast. Well, so then so I have prepared only 2 case studies, but I think that they show really the value added with some numbers, etc. So then to wrap up, we can say that coupled with an EMS, solar forecasting solutions enable to increase the profitability of the system by allowing the storage optimization. At the feasibility stage of the project, forecasts help by optimizing the size of the battery and then reduce the cost of the project, firstly, and secondly, by optimizing and validating the control strategy of the system. And later, at the operational phase of the project, the forecast allow the battery to be optimally charged when necessary, and then to sell at best price. So more at the end of the day, and to be charged for autoconsumption. And they also enable the limitation of curtailment, as we saw, and the reduction of the battery aging by reducing the average state of charge. I have not showed you a case study, but we have made some studies aiming at estimating the optimized state of charge of the battery to reduce the de-aging. So, well, I think it's the last slide.
Yeah, great, right on time. Thank you very much, Nathalie. I'm checking right now the chat if there is any question, but for now I don't see any. So in any way, you will have all the contacts. If you have any other observation, question, or willing to have a further conversation with Nathalie, we will send all the information. Again, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
It was shared. Thank you. Likewise. Now for the next presentation, the last of the day, but not the least, we will talk about how storage could benefit from AI in the context of smart grids. So today we have Vincent Desbouchères. He's an associate professor at the Grenoble INP, which is also partner of the Institute MEA in Artificial Intelligence. Sorry. Is this correct, Vincent?
Yes, exactly. Do you hear me correctly?
Fine.
Yeah?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation as well. I'm really happy to discuss those topics, and I'm sorry in advance, but so as a researcher, most probably I'll finish with some kind of bigger picture or something that is either well, probably not too generic, but more focused on what kind of challenge we would have technically speaking. So I will just shift to the next slide. Well, that's the same one. So the idea today is to discuss how AI techniques could ease, in fact, or accompany the usage of storage for power systems, more specifically in the context of smart grids. And the idea is to look at ways to use or increase the value of storage facilities as flexibility levels for grids. So they would act based on technical, economic criteria, if not more. So as it was said just before, this is a slide for publicity. So I'm talking here as one of the members of the MIA Institute, so Multidisciplinary Institute in Artificial Intelligence. If you want to know more, so there is a link right there. Eric Gossier is in charge of that institute in Grenoble, and I'm just focusing in, as you can see, there are future AI environments, etc. So it's very broad. And as a researcher from in electrical engineering and power system, I'm really in one of those, one specific aspect that is covered by the institute. Okay, moving on to the context, the motivation. So, as we all know, power system evolved into smart grids, and that creates huge opportunities for AI, notably with the help of storage system, of course. We are talking here about the trend of energy digitalization, and in this kind of graph, you can see that we will have, in fact, due to the increasing variability with DR, non-conventional loads, etc., an increasing complexity in asset management, an increasing difficulty in operations. Everything, in fact, is underlined by a trend of an increasing volume of data. With that volume of data, we can do many things, monitor, communicate. We could use, of course, the core of that communication system, which are the smart meters. And we, of course, could use that as a way to tackle the increasing complexity of that system. We are already saying that power system, we were already saying a long time ago that power systems are chaotic, so difficult to model. So AI would or could present a very interesting simplification procedure or support for us in order to address this kind of system. So we are naturally turning very easily and fast to data-driven science to analyze the energy consumption patterns and indirectly to rely sometimes more on data than on models themselves, even if we create some data with models. Because in fact, we sometimes cannot attempt to model a system or simulate it because it's too complex, too long, or we don't always know what we want to find or look for. So if we can have some kind of proactive intelligence through data science, which is quite popular right now, we could easily or more easily tackle that complexity and simplify what we have difficulty to grasp, I want to say. So of course, some of the aspects of the power system could be tackled by other techniques, well known or not. So more traditional optimization, alternative control, architectural regulations. But the versatility of AI and the possibility to learn with or without supervision from the data is of high interest in that context. Voilà. And also the possibility to tackle the millions of variables and data points, including weather, so exogenous data and endogenous data, so demand, location, generation assets, etc. To proactively help operators to decide, in fact, what to do with end users, how to power them, and how to build them, is, of course, theoretically speaking, quite motivating. Voilà. So this is the big picture. And of course, when we look at that, if we move on to the next slide, when you look at all the applications that open to us in that context, of course, as you can see in that figure, we can see that storage is popping up at many places, in fact. On distribution and management, once we agree that AI could be some kind of second brain for the operators for future smart grids, we have to identify applications for which this makes sense. The technology continuously collects and synthesizes overwhelming amounts of data from millions of smart sensors nationwide to make decisions on how best allocate energy resources and so on. The advance made from deep learning algorithm would help us spot patterns, anomalies in large data sets. And this would clearly revolutionize both the demand and the supply side of energy economy. So as a result, if we look at smart consumption, large regional grids, in fact, could be in the end replaced by special microgrids, notably relying on storage, that would manage local energy needs with a finer resolution. So if you pair that with various battery technology that allow, in fact, to address various problems on various time constants, in fact, you will most probably help develop not only interesting technical focus, in fact, projects, but as well more social and economic development, like local energy communities that would be more resilient to, that would make, in fact, the grid more resilient to, I don't know, severe weather events or other outages, etc. On the demand side, smart meters for end users and sensors along the line will be able to constantly monitor demand and supply. They will communicate with the grid, modify electricity use during off-peak and on-peak, etc. So if we are able to relax the workload on the grid, you could lower the price, but you could also help the operator in more long-term issues like defer investments and so on, or tackle other criteria, not necessarily technical ones like greenhouse gas emissions. Favor some production in front of others, depending on various time-related criteria or other things. On the supply side, if you couple storage and AI, you could allow such transition on the energy portfolio with an increase on sources production and minimal disruption from the intermittency that we all know that comes with these sources. Okay, you could, if you have too much production because there is a sudden wind or sun variation that were not correctly forecasted for some reason, you could still act on the more traditional fossil-based production. And the other way around, in fact, of course, play on the more traditional one when you do not have enough remote sources available. You could act also on social, spatial, and temporal variations with the same kind of tools. So many possibilities and many applications, and their application that would rely on storage and AI. If we focus just on the storage system per se, in fact, storage system, as you can see on that very generic picture, that integration of storage system can be done at almost all levels, if not all, of the power grid. A multitude of functions can be carried out, and those functions will depend, in fact, on the characteristic of the system in terms of time consumption, power, energy capacity, losses, time, etc. So depending on the target, you will use that to tackle a large set of solutions and drivers that you can see on the slide. And we already have talked about that today, and probably you already have talked about that before. From the integration, demand response to stability enhancements, and so on. Investment deferral, of course, for grid operator by alleviating congestion, for instance. And that help as well self-consumption to act as a flexibility levers, of course. So if you focus a bit more precisely, for utility operators, the benefit can be drawn from storage system depending on the nature of storage system. So whether they are long or short-term storage, with a spinning or non-spinning reserve, of course, black start capabilities, and so on. So all that will help at various effects of the operation of the grid, from operational to long-term planning. And for the utilities, it is beneficial for well, upgrade deferral and very what we think could be basic, but will in fact help possibly decrease the sizing margin that we usually take when choosing the replacement or reinforcement of grid, and will help in fact the grid to be more flexible in front of any local production. Of course, everything in a scope where we want to decrease the equivalent CO2 emission of the production and consumption of energy, knowing that it cannot be all the job itself, of course. This is a generic slide that will show that, of course, there exist many types of storage, and despite the flexibility and all the applications that storage system can provide, historically speaking, in grids, of course, we have seen that this morning, the penetration rate is quite small. Of course, it's linked to the need and the cost, except for pump and storage, which were widely developed in parallel with the nuclear power plants, so at least in France, but as well everywhere. But we have strong drivers, but we also have some challenges, which are, of course, still the price, which is clearly decreasing strongly. The need for still some technological improvement. And from the grid perspective, the confidence in the technology in terms of, I would say, technical criteria. Typically, if you want to use some kind of storage for a given service, on-series services or not, for a given time horizon and so on, you have to be able to choose, in fact, what kind of storage system will provide what kind of service, frequency support, virtual inertia, energy balance, fluctuation damping, etc. So typically, it would make sense, relying on AI and storage, to see the introduction of some kind of virtual operator of storage system, aggregating, in fact, various technology of storage and providing to the grid various kind of services. And that's where we come into AI techniques. Huh? And of course, we know from, so traditionally or historically speaking, we started with data-driven techniques, typically monitoring what is going on right now and trying to propose diagnostic or categories of problems, so to spot what is going on right now. This was used typically to build digital twins, to improve the knowledge on systems and so on. Currently, we are using still data, but also looking very strongly to simulation or knowledge-driven techniques. And those will be, in fact, able to provide system-wide prescription and prediction. So what will or what should happen at a system level. And this is possible when you shift to more advanced AI techniques, typically not necessarily relying on supervised learning, for instance. And then it means you open a whole set of possibilities to learn not only models, but as well management strategies and to apply them on forecasts, possibly to replace traditional solvers with the fast approximator. So of course, you reduce the optimality of the solution, but at least you get them fast. And to overcome the tractability of the tractability barriers, so simply with clustering, dimension reduction, and so on. Another question that is not clearly decided yet is the choice between cloud and edge computing. So typically to rely heavily on a communication system and a centralized brain, I would say, that will make the decision for everyone, which is interesting because you can have heavy computational services centralized, but that is not really resilient. If you lose that server, we all have seen, and some of you probably have been impacted by the recent OVH server that burned. So typically that's the case of a security breach in a way. Huh? So a cloud computing is interesting, but maybe could not be the full answer to a grid-related service. And edge computing would be interesting in the sense that you distribute intelligence with less pressure on resilience. You increase indirectly self-sufficiency because you propose the possibility to make decisions, at least some decisions locally, with possibly a communication, but much less real time, for instance. So that would be of interest, of course. To finish on that aspect as well, I wanted to highlight the fact that when it comes to AI techniques and electrical energy in the power system, you have to find the proper adequation between the problem to solve, the technique, and operational hypotheses, which are strong. It means you should be able to access data, to select the quantity and the type of data, and of course rely on the user involvement and so on. And in front of that, for each given problem, so here there is a list of problems: observability, decision-making, action on the grid itself, request to flexibility level, and so on. All that cannot be addressed by the same kind of technique. So you will have a range from supervised to unsupervised, reinforcement, transfer learning, which is very interesting as well, because in fact you will develop your system on a known simulation, for instance, and then complete the learning on a field where you have much less information, so real life, for instance, and deep reinforcement learning as well, that would be able to act without no or not so much prior information about the system. So help us tackle the chaotic aspect of the grid. And the relevant application in the center of all that, it's not necessarily a one that will strictly rely exclusively on AI, but most probably will be some kind of hybridization between everything that you can already know well, master well, and trust well as well. For the remaining minutes, in fact, I'm sorry in advance, but I planned way too much slides, so I guess I will pass a few of them, like 5 or 6, to keep the time. But I wanted to show you, and I make that on purpose, a few illustrations. In fact, when you decide to use AI techniques and storage, you have two main possibilities. Either you focus on the component aspect, at the component level, or at the system level. because it's not the same techniques, it's not the same expertise, and not the same use. At the component level, there's a small illustration that you can see here. We will use predictive models in order to improve our knowledge of the system, to probably better anticipate its aging or things like that, better control that, and locally, in fact, develop the comprehension of that system, of that device. Sorry. At the system level, it's much more large, I want to say. You can use either data-driven techniques or more knowledge-driven techniques, but you possibly will want to look into edge computing, typically to have a large set of components that would be virtually aggregated in some kind of operation platform, or and that could be in fact owned indirectly or in strong relation with the DSO, of course, to provide flexibility levels to the grid. And in fact, I can see that time is flowing. So I will just say that I had like 3-4 illustrations. Don't hesitate to look at the slide and come back to me if you have more questions on that. I wanted to show you that we could use flexibility levels at the level of distribution grid, for instance, relying on storage system, with in fact all the time what would be the input, the needs, and how we could use that, what kind of objective function we would target. If you want to be at the interface between DSO and TSOs, that won't be exactly the same objective to tackle, typically to stay within limits on active and reactive power, but as well relying on very similar models and tools. And the third illustration, let me pass the slide, I'm sorry, would be in fact if you focus on one node of the distribution system, typically that could be a very flexible one in the form of local energy communities. Then you could have other issues, typically to see how the impact of self-consumption, for instance, will be strong or not on the capacity of the DSO to forecast properly the evolution of the power flow in its grid in time. As well, you will rely on grid topology, grid models, and AI tool to detect, as a function of the penetration, detect unusual elements. And I will finish on my conclusion, which is here. On my conclusion, in fact, I wanted to highlight a few interesting points. In my opinion, so when you focus on grid usage of storage and AI, it is interesting to consider some kind of digital assistant for current operators. You cannot replace human in the loop, of course, especially in a system that is so chaotic and very difficult to predict. It means that we could use that AI to explore a set of features, to classify anomalies, and to optimize under uncertainties, or to rapidly get interesting results. With some kind of coordination, we'll end up with some kind of hypervisor that will in fact help operators to take the good decision at one point. On that elements, current R&D works will focus on how to reduce dimensionality and overcome tractability barriers with supervised and unsupervised analytics. And the limitations, in fact, would clearly be on the aspect of putting everything together. So when you have AI techniques that you use for optimization, etc., we are not necessarily targeting the best possible techniques or the best possible AI tool. We want, on overall, everything being put together to reach some kind of quality of the value and not necessarily efficiency of, for instance, forecasting techniques and so on. And lastly, with the large volume of data, it's true that we have such data, but in fact, it's not that easy to access such data. For instance, working with grid operators. What about the data ownership, the problem of availability, and the problem of security and trust entity with that data? The last very point, and I will finish on that, is on the complexity of the tool itself. I work extensively with the main French DSO and unissent. And in fact, they are reluctant to use black box, typically unsupervised AI techniques, because they do not master at all what's going on with that kind of tool. So possibly as you trust what you understand, maybe we could accept in time to slightly decrease the quality of the fields, but better control or master what's going on and understand that. Without talking about economic viability so far. Thank you. I'll stop there. I talk too much and I plan to say too much thing. I hope it was clear enough. And if you have any questions, in fact, come back to me later. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. It was great. No, it wasn't long enough. I think it was the right timing. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
We have one question from Ingrid asking, can you provide examples of collaboration with energy stakeholders, or are these mainly French or European?
No, I can provide. In fact, we are associating AI and storage. We currently work with Ethos. Ethos is, well, it's in global, but it's targeting not only France, I want to say. And the idea is, I told you that already, is to work on some kind of virtual battery operator that would provide a various set of services, relying in fact on a proper forecast and optimization of a various range of technology of storage. That could be region-wide or nationwide, we never know. It depends on the, in fact, the trust that various stakeholders could put in the programs, not necessarily only targeting storage, and usually targeting some kind of community or thing like that. That's one aspect. On the international aspect, personally speaking, well, not personally, but in my team, sorry about that, in my lab, we have a very strong and structural collaboration with Singapore on AI. Not necessarily AI for power system exclusively. We are also working, well, of course, it's targeting energy, but you will have grids, but you will have buildings, districts, and it's covering much more than just like electricity, for instance. So I'm far from the only one being involved there, and far from being, you know, the one in charge of the whole the whole project. So that's one of the international collaboration that's coming into my mind. And we have as well a research project that we are currently pushing with Germany, that I know of and that I participated with, Fraunhofer Institute and colleagues in academia. That's the main one I know, but of course there are other ones going on just in my lab, without speaking about other colleagues in France. So it is clear that it is only not only region or nationwide focus.
Thank you. I don't see any more question now. It has been 2 hours. We all together. We have just a little 15 minutes advance. That's great. Just thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you very much for your participation. Of course, you're also welcome to the next webinars we will be organizing. So just before the break, and then you will have the opportunity to access the platform from the B2B meetings. 2 things. First, concerning the program. So as I was saying, this is a 6-week program. We're on the 4th. Next week is going to be the 5th sessions. And this is going to be about trends and innovative projects in smart grids. We will have the chance to have leading actors who will present innovative projects. So we will have 5 panelists on the next week. We will have a representative of the National Agency for Ecological Transition called ADEME. Then we will have Cap Energy, which is a energy cluster, who will be also present. We will have the Tenerrdis, who is the French company that manages the public electricity distribution in France. We will have also La Cher-Valodoué, who is a consortium of industrial partners and research partners. And last but not the least, we will have IRT Systemics, which is the Institute for Technological Research in France. So that's the program for next week. It is very interesting. So you're warmly invited to participate. We are thankful for your loyalty on the full program of the 6 weeks. So just before giving you a break, again, you have the link for the, great, thank you, Natalie. You have on the chat, you have just in front of you. So we'll be starting in 1 hour at 12, and you will be able to meet with the different partners and panelists that have been having presence. So thank you again all for your loyalty. I wish you a nice day and see you next week. Thank you.